Fernando Mendoza has turned heads at Raiders rookie minicamp after showing a fiery side that instantly changed the energy in the locker room. The Raiders know one pick snapped at his offensive line during a team drill over repeated missed assignments, making it clear he's not interested in being one of the guys when practice starts. Let me fill you in. The confession on April 29, 2026, less than a week after the Las Vegas Raiders made him the #1 overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft. Fernando Mendoza sat down for an interview with the Raiders team website and said something that stopped people mid-scroll. He was asked about his leadership style, the kind of soft, routine question that gets a soft, routine answer from every rookie quarterback who just signed a life-changing contract. Except Mendoza did not give the routine answer. Although I've come off as very humble and pretty fuzzy and warm at the end of my Indiana career. When you have that equity, you're able to be like, no. 4 and number. No. 4, Brett Favre. No. 12, Aaron Rodgers. Two of the most demanding, uncompromising, and at times confrontational quarterbacks in NFL history. Then came the line that went everywhere. I wasn't always a nice guy. I was an a-hole sometimes because I wanted everyone to do their 111, everyone to do their job, hold everyone to a high standard. Fernando Mendoza, on his leadership, told "I am not always a nice guy, WM and a-hole sometimes." That quote hit the internet, and it did not slow down. Fans, analysts, commentators, everyone had something to say. Fans reacted quickly once the quote started circulating. "This is exactly what the Raiders need," at QB1 wrote. Another added, "He led Indiana to a natty being an a-hole. Let him cook." Someone else commented more skeptically, "Love the mentality, but earn it first before talking like a veteran." But to understand why that quote carries weight and why it matters for this Raiders franchise, you have to understand what Fernando Mendoza did before he ever set foot in Las Vegas. Because this is not a guy who talked tough after going 7-5. Mendoza led Indiana to a national championship last season, which means the demanding standard he held teammates to actually produce results. This was not a quarterback barking at teammates while going 7-5. In a season that saw Indiana win its first national championship in program history and go 16-0 in the process, Mendoza totaled 3,535 passing yards, 41 passing touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and a 182.9 passer rating, while completing 72.0% of his passes. He led the Big Ten in passing touchdowns and passer rating, helping Mendoza win the 2025 Heisman Trophy and Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year honors. He also rushed for 276 yards and 7 touchdowns. An undefeated season, a Heisman Trophy, a national title, and according to the man himself, some of that required being a guy his teammates did not always enjoy being around on the practice field. So the question becomes, how did a kid from Miami, who was once a third-string quarterback at Cal, become the kind of player with the authority to demand perfection from the people around him? The rise nobody saw coming. 3 years before that Raiders interview, Fernando Mendoza was invisible. Not overlooked in the way people say about players who were 4-star recruits. Truly invisible. 3 years earlier, he was running scout team reps at Cal as a third-string quarterback. Fernando Mendoza was a two-sport athlete in high school, competing in both football and tennis. He began his high school career at Bellin Jesuit Preparatory School as a freshman before transferring to Christopher Columbus High School. Mendoza was rated as high as a 3-star recruit as the No. 216 overall player in Florida and the No. 131 overall quarterback in the class of 2022, depending on the recruiting service. That is not the profile of a future first overall pick. That is the profile of a player who might end up coaching high school ball after a quiet college career spent holding a clipboard. Mendoza first committed to Yale in the summer of 2021 before flipping to Cal in 2022. After 3 seasons at Cal, including a redshirt year, Mendoza transferred to Indiana in 2025. At Cal, Mendoza gradually worked his way into playing time, but the Bears were not a powerhouse. Nobody outside of Berkeley was paying close attention to what he was doing. He played 20 games across 3 seasons, started 19 of them, and left as the school's all-time leader in completion percentage. Good, not great, not the kind of career that gets a man compared to Peyton Manning. Then on December 23, 2024, Mendoza announced his decision to transfer to Indiana University Bloomington to play for the Hoosiers. Indiana, the school with 715 losses, the second most in FBS history, just one behind Northwestern. a program that before head coach Curt Cignetti arrived had gone 9-27 in its final 3 seasons. https://www.espn.com/collegefootballstory/ID47667-168. Her Mendoza Hoosiers cap perfect season win first national title under the previous staff. This was not a program that attracted Heisman caliber talent. This was a program that attracted players who had something to prove, which is exactly what Mendoza was. And something changed in Bloomington. Mendoza did not just become a starter on a good team. He became the centerpiece of something historic. The Hoosiers steamrolled through the regular season, blowing out UCLA 56 tests, handling Maryland 55-10, dismantling Wisconsin 31-7. In a 27-24 road win against the Penn State Nittany Lions, Mendoza completed 19 of 30 passes for 218 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception, adding a rushing touchdown. The passing touchdown to receiver Omar Cooper Jr. came in the final moments of the game to take the lead and was widely described as a Heisman moment. That Penn State game is where the nation started paying attention. That is where the whispers about a kid from Miami at a historically irrelevant program turned into genuine buzz. And it is where Mendoza's demanding leadership style moved from a character trait to a competitive weapon. Because when you watch that throw to Cooper, a back shoulder pass to the end zone with 36 seconds remaining, you see a quarterback who trusts his receiver to be in the right spot at the right time. That trust does not come from being everyone's friend. It comes from months of holding people accountable, months of being, by his own admission, difficult. Mendoza, in his first year at Indiana after transferring from California, led the Hoosiers to a 13-0 regular season record, including a victory in the Big Ten championship game and the program's first ever No. 1 ranking. He did not just win the Heisman. Mendoza received 2,362 points, including 643 first-place votes, well ahead of the rest of the field in a convincing win. Mendoza finished first in all 6 Heisman regions, the first to do so since Caleb Williams in 2022. He received 84.66% of total possible points, which is the 7th highest in the history of the Heisman. And then came the playoff, the championship run that earned the edge. The college football playoff is where Fernando Mendoza went from a great college quarterback to a legend in Bloomington. And it is where his willingness to get in the faces of the people around him bore the fruit that the Raiders are now banking their entire franchise rebuild on. Mendoza led Indiana to its first bowl game win since 1991, defeating the No. 9 Alabama Crimson Tide 38-3 in the 2026 Rose Bowl. He completed 14 of 16 passes for 192 yards and 3 touchdowns. 14 of 16 against Alabama. That is a quarterback operating with ruthless efficiency, and it is also a reflection of an offense around him that was executing at an elite level, because the man under center would not tolerate anything less. The semifinal against Oregon was even more lopsided. Mendoza completed 17 of 20 passes for 177 yards and 5 touchdowns while defeating Oregon 56-22 in the 2026 Peach Bowl. 5 touchdowns on 20 attempts. Oregon had been a powerhouse all season, and Mendoza sliced through their defense like it was a mid-November tune-up game. Then the national championship. The stage was poetic in a way that even Hollywood would have called too on the nose. As No. 1 Indiana entered Hard Rock Stadium on Monday night to compete for the school's first national title on No. 10 Miami's home turf, the Hoosiers carried with them the confidence of their head coach, Curt Cignetti, and the baggage of the program's heavy history as one of the worst in college football. Hard Rock Stadium, Miami Gardens, Florida, against the Miami Hurricanes. And on the other sideline, a roster that was stacked with talent. Indiana's national championship roster included 8 4- or 5-star players, while Miami boasted 45 who earned 4- or 5-star rankings out of high school. Miami, the school in Mendoza's own backyard that famously never offered him a scholarship. Miami famously lost to Indiana in the finale, as they got taken down by Mendoza, a local Miami kid that they snubbed at every turn. In the 2026 College Football Playoff National Championship against the Miami Hurricanes, he completed 16 passes for 186 yards while also rushing for a 12-yard touchdown, leading the Hoosiers to a 27-21 victory and the school's first ever national title. The decisive play, a 4th and 4 call in the 4th quarter, did not come through the air. Mendoza willed himself 12 yards into the end zone on 4th and 4, with 9:18 left to give the Hoosiers a 24-14 lead. He was named the College Football Playoff Championship Offensive Player of the Game after scoring the game's decisive score. To understand just how improbable Indiana's 16-0 season was, punctuated by its gritty 27-21 win against Miami, in front of a crowd of 67,227, the majority clad in cream and crimson, a history lesson is required. Indiana joined the 1894 Yale team as the only ones in major college football history to finish 16-0. That is the resume that gave the whole quote its power. Mendoza was not trying to sound tough. He was explaining what 16-0 actually required, walking into the Raiders' locker room. So Mendoza arrives in Las Vegas with a Heisman, a national championship ring, and the first overall selection on his resume. And the very first thing he does is pump the brakes on himself. However, coming into a new organization, starting from the bottom of the totem pole, I believe that leadership is earned, not given. https://www.foxsports.com/stories NFL Raiders QB Fernando Mendoza, Indiana. The Heisman winner, who's about to sign a contract worth tens of millions of dollars, walked into rookie camp and decided he was, in his own words, at the bottom of the totem pole. He said, "I believe I'm still the underdog. I can tell you right now, I'm not one of the 32 quarterbacks. I'm at the bottom of the totem pole right now." This is the balance that Mendoza is trying to strike. He knows he has the ability to be demanding, to push people, to snap at teammates who are not meeting the standard. But he also knows that the locker room in Las Vegas is not the locker room in Bloomington. He has to earn it all over again. Mendoza acknowledges that he won't come into the Raiders organization with this leadership mindset right off the bat as a rookie. He will need to gain the trust of his new teammates before taking over as a leader. It's clear he knows how to go about reaching this level of confidence. And while the a-hole quote dominated headlines, what Mendoza was doing behind the scenes during rookie minicamp told an even bigger story about the kind of competitor the Raiders drafted. On Friday night, after day one wrapped at the Intermountain Health Performance Center, Fernando Mendoza pulled the rookie offensive linemen into a hotel room and asked them to give him snaps. Not for show, not for the cameras. Mendoza took almost every snap of his college career out of shotgun at Indiana, and getting comfortable under center is the most obvious technical hurdle between him and starting week one. A Friday night, after his first NFL practice, the #1 overall pick in the draft texted his centers and said, essentially, "Let's keep working. The other quarterbacks are really in tune, but I need more work under center. And it's great when we can be in the hotel getting 25 to 50 snaps each last night and the night before day one." During his 3 seasons, 2 at Cal and 1 at Indiana, Mendoza took just 5 snaps from under center. Kubiak's play-action offense uses under center reps at one of the highest rates in the league. That gap 5 under center snaps in college versus a system that is built around play-action from under center is the single biggest technical challenge standing between Mendoza and the starting job. And he went after it on night 1. 3rd-round draft pick Trey Zoon said of Mendoza, "He just connects with everybody. He's super friendly, easy to talk to, and getting to know everybody. So, he's a great leader, and I'm happy to be working with him." Tredan Stukes, the 2nd-round safety whose locker sits next to Mendoza's, called him a super funny guy and said he loves the way Mendoza attacks his work. And then there was the Kieron Crawford story. Crawford told a story that you couldn't script. After his name was called by the Raiders, his agent immediately called Mendoza. Not the head coach, not the GM, the quarterback, just to check in. That tells you something about Mendoza's reputation around the league before he ever took an NFL snap. One of Mendoza's new Las Vegas teammates, Max Crosby, recently gave the quarterback some advice ahead of him officially joining the team. One of the tidbits he mentioned was how to win over the respect of his teammates. Anytime you get an opportunity to go out there and just compete and just put your best foot forward, that's what it all comes down to. And that's where you earn respect from the guys, Crosby said. I think for him, just come in and just be himself. That's what I told him, just be yourself. That advice aligns perfectly with what Mendoza has already signaled. Be humble first, earn trust through work, and then when the time is right, hold everyone to the highest possible standard. Even if that means being the guy people don't always want to hear from at practice. Why the Raiders need this version of Mendoza. Now here is where this entire story becomes critical for the Las Vegas Raiders as a franchise. Because this team is not just adding a quarterback, they are adding a culture. And the culture this franchise has been operating under for the last several years has been, frankly, a disaster. The Las Vegas Raiders offseason has been marked by changes to both their coaching staff and roster. Las Vegas has had precisely the kind of offseason it needed, following its 3-14 failure of a campaign under Pete Carroll. The Las Vegas Raiders are turning the page on a putrid 2025 season. Both of their starting quarterbacks, Geno Smith and Kenny Pickett, have found new homes. A 3-14 season, a revolving door at the quarterback position. The past 3 Raiders Week 1 starting quarterbacks since Derek Carr left. Jimmy Garoppolo in 2023, Gardner Minshew in 2024, and Geno Smith in 2025 have combined for a 7-23 record in those seasons, with 35 passing touchdowns and 36 picks. That is the organizational wreckage that Mendoza is walking into, and the Raiders know that fixing it requires more than just a good arm. It requires a personality strong enough to reshape how the people in that building operate on a daily basis. Mendoza specifically mentioned wanting to return the franchise to its glory years, and those great Raiders teams were not exactly known for their gentleness. The Silver and Black have a long history of edge, attitude, and yes, a hose. Mendoza seems to know exactly what he is walking into, and he is already speaking the language. That is why the a-hole quote resonated the way it did. The Raiders are not a franchise that responds to polished corporate speak from their quarterback. They are a franchise that was built by Al Davis, a man who prided himself on edge, defiance, and an unwillingness to accept mediocrity from anyone around him. Mendoza, intentionally or not, tapped into that lineage the moment he referenced Favre and Rodgers. But the Raiders are also being careful. The plan is not to throw Mendoza into the fire on Week 1. Mendoza isn't expected to start Week 1 for the Raiders. Las Vegas signed veteran Pro Bowl quarterback Kirk Cousins, the perfect counterpart for Mendoza, and first-year head coach Clint Kubiak has said that Mendoza would sit and learn behind Cousins in a perfect world. Cousins was signed on a 1-year, $20 million deal to clearly be the bridge to Mendoza, and new coach Clint Kubiak had said he wanted to add a veteran quarterback to the roster. For what it's worth, GM John Spytek has said the best man will play, but also mentioned during the NFL Combine that he's not necessarily in favor of running a rookie QB out there right away. And Kubiak said much the same. Ideally, you don't want him to start from day one. You'd love for him to learn behind somebody. That's a perfect world. It doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes they have to play from day one, and it's our job as a coach to get them ready to go. I think it does help the player, though, if they can sit behind a mature adult and watch how they run the show. Cousins would qualify as a mature adult whom Mendoza could study. Cousins has been in the league for 14 years and worked as a starter for 10 of them. Cousins himself began his career as the backup to Robert Griffin III in Washington before working his way into the starting lineup, where he stayed for 3 years before signing a free agent deal with the Vikings. He lasted 6 years in Minnesota before tearing his Achilles during his final season, then signed a huge contract with the Falcons before struggling through his first season and getting benched down the stretch in favor of Michael Penix Jr. He backed up Penix last season before being elevated into the starting lineup in the wake of the latter's knee injury. The Tom Brady factor adds another layer. Las Vegas Raiders minority owner Tom Brady is taking a meticulous approach to the team's quarterback situation, while head coach Clint Kubiak will have ultimate say in who starts, and for how long he will likely consider input from the greatest quarterback to ever play in the NFL. Raiders minority owner Tom Brady hasn't hidden that he thinks quarterbacks should sit as rookies. Mendoza himself has embraced the Brady connection. Who hasn't admired Tom Brady, guys? Mendoza said at February's scouting combine, "I mean, more Super Bowl rings than anybody. That opportunity would be fantastic." Tom Brady, I believe, is the greatest quarterback of all time by a wide margin. And to be able to have the opportunity to be mentored by him, it would mean so much. But whether Mendoza sits for 5 weeks, 10 weeks, or not at all, the fact remains, when he does take the field as the Raiders' starting quarterback, the team is counting on the version of him that goes after his teammates, the version that holds everyone to their 111th, the version that, by his own admission, is not always pleasant to be around when the standard slips. Raiders general manager John Spytek said last month he nixed any talk of trading the one pick because he was sure Mendoza would be their guy. I think any coach is excited to work with a big, athletic, talented thrower that is extremely smart and a very driven worker. And that's been our experience with Fernando, Spytek said. Not every quarterback who talks about being demanding actually is. Some guys say the right things at the podium and then refuse to confront their teammates in the building. Mendoza has shown through an undefeated season, a Heisman Trophy, and a national championship that his version of demanding is not lip service. It is a results-oriented approach that makes people uncomfortable in the moment and celebrates in January. And that is exactly what a franchise that went 3-14 needs to hear. Even if some of the guys in that locker room do not want to hear it yet. The self-awareness to pair the edge with leadership is earned, not given, is what separates it from usual rookie bravado. Mendoza knows when to push and when to fall in line. And that balance is exactly what a rebuilding franchise should want from its future signal caller. Not everyone in the NFL world is sold. One college coach that faced Mendoza in the ACC when he played at Cal doesn't think he has what it takes to be an NFL quarterback. He's a good decision maker, but I don't think he's got the NFL traits, the coach said. They're all back shoulder throws. That's not working in the NFL. But Mendoza ranked first in FBS and EPA per dropback last season, second in EPA per dropback on third and fourth downs, fourth in EPA when tied or trailing in the fourth quarter. Mendoza played hurt against Ohio State, came back, and won a Big Ten title. He scored the game-winning touchdown in the national championship game. One anonymous coach saying he does not have NFL traits does not erase what Mendoza demonstrated on the field against Alabama, Oregon, Ohio State, and Miami. Mendoza has one guy with a chip on his shoulder. If anything, this ACC coach trying to start a fire just proved how little fuel there is. The reality is this: the Las Vegas Raiders drafted a quarterback who admits he will go after his own teammates. He said it himself. He compared himself to Favre and Rodgers, not in talent, but in temperament. He told the world he was not always a nice guy at Indiana. And then he showed up to rookie minicamp, called himself the underdog, started from scratch on his footwork, texted his centers at night for extra reps, and impressed everyone in the building. That combination, the edge and the humility, the demand for excellence and the willingness to put in extra work, is what makes Fernando Mendoza the most fascinating rookie in the 2026 class. He is not just the Raiders' first overall pick. He is a walking contradiction. A Heisman winner who calls himself the bottom of the totem pole, and a self-described nice guy who will snap at you the moment you stop doing your job. The Raiders have not had a quarterback like that in a very long time. And if Mendoza's track record at Indiana is any indication of what happens when he earns the equity to lead, Las Vegas might finally have the person capable of doing what nobody in that building has managed since the days of Al Davis: make the Raiders mean something again. References: NFL.com. Mendoza took more snaps under center at Raiders minicamp. https://www.nfl.com/news. Fernando Mendoza took more snaps under center during rookie minicamp than he did in 3 seasons of college. Sports Naut. Raiders rookie minicamp 2026. Mendoza already looks like the guy. https://sportsnaut.com. NFL Las Vegas Raiders rookie minicamp 2026. Fernando Mendoza recap. Las Vegas Sun analysis. Mendoza Ace's first impression. https://vegasun.com/news/2026. May 06 analysis. Fernando Mendoza Ace's first impression on clutch points. Mendoza's big adjustment before rookie season. https://clutchpoints.com's NFL Las Vegas Raiders new Fernando Mendoza game-changing adjustment. Indiana dominance. Yahoo Sports. Mendoza shares early challenges following Raiders move. https://sports.yayo.com's articles left. Fernando Mendoza shares early challenges 505-33272. Out HTML. Fansided. Mendoza's early development suggests patient approach. https://fansided.com's NFL Fernando Mendoza's early writers development suggests patient approach. https://fansided.com's NFL Fernando Mendoza's early writers development suggests patient approach. S on the table. Las Vegas Review Journal. Bottom of the totem pole. Mendoza starting over with Raiders. https://www.reviewjournal.com Sports Raiders. Bottom of the totem Malta Fernando Mendoza starting over with Raiders. 3796089si.com Early focus for Raiders Mendoza development. https://www.si.com's NFL Raiders I Las Vegas early focus Fernando Mendoza development. Fox News Mendoza faces criticism from college football coach. https://www.foxnews.com's Sports Raiders Fernando Mendoza faces criticism. College college football coach, https://www.foxnews.com. Sports Raiders, Fernando Mendoza faces criticism, college football coach, NFL readiness. Newsweek, Raiders Hall of Famer warns Mendoza, https://sports NFL Raiders Hall of Famer warns Fernando Mendoza against one thing, 11-19-26376. Just blog baby, college coaches coming out of the woodwork on Mendoza, https://justblogbaby.com/college coaches are coming out of the woodwork on Raiders, Fernando Mendoza. Fox Sports Raiders QB Mendoza, I was an a-hole sometimes at Indiana, https://www.foxsports.com stories NFL, Raiders QB Fernando Mendoza, Indiana. NBC Sports Mendoza on his leadership. I'm an a-hole sometimes, https://www.nbcsports.com/NFL for Pro Football Talk rumor mill for Novmer Fernando Mendoza on his leadership aim not guy mn a hole sometimes. SI.com, Mendoza admitted he can be an all-hole when leading a team, https://www.si.com's Knicks and FL/Raiders, Fernando Mendoza admitted leading team, Yahoo Sports Mendoza addresses leadership style, https://sports knicksjetyero.com, Writerclus wasn't always nice guy writers 183516097, HTML, The Sports Rush, Mendoza's I'm an a-hole sometimes quote speaks to leadership, https://thesportsrush.com/Fernando Mendoza and a-hole sometimes leadership quote www.cbs://www.cbs://www.esi.com's Knicks Hoosiers cap perfect season, win first national title. https://www.espn.com scores college football story /ID 476671685 Mendoza Hoosiers cap perfect season win first national title. Heisman.com Fernando Mendoza https://www.heisman.com Heisman winners Fernando Mendoza Wikipedia Fernando Mendoza https://wikipedia.org/wiki Fernando Mendoza ncaa.com Mendoza career stats highlights. Records https://www.ncaa.com snooze/football article/23/7 Fernando Mendoza college football career stats highlights records. Pro Football Network Mendoza's improbable rise at Indiana. https://www.profootballnetwork.com 7/F Fernando Mendoza improbable rise at Indiana. CBS Sports Raiders sign Kirk Cousins ahead of drafting Mendoza. https://www.cbssports.com/NFL News Raiders Kirk Cousins Fernando Mendoza. Heavy.com Ice Cube gets blunt about Mendoza. Raiders rebuild https://heavy.com/sports NFL Las Vegas Raiders Kirk Cousins Fernando Mendoza rebuild.